Hello, hello, and welcome to Journey to SEA 2025. Yep, we're finished with 24 and we are eyes on the prize for 2025. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Now, today's going to be a quick one. As you realize, we didn't quite get started at 11 a.m. Lots of stuff going on behind the scenes that I wouldn't get into right now, but I thought I should still come on and at least give you a heads up on some of the things that we'd be going through, as well as what to expect during the season that we're going to be working on SEA 2025. Now, just to give a quick reminder of who I am, if this is your first session, if you haven't seen any of the others, my name is Shelly Ann Edwards Barron, and I am a creative writing specialist. For this program, I am focused on working on both comprehension and creative writing because I believe they're interconnected. And when students develop their creative writing, they learn many things that can help them develop their comprehension and vice versa. So we're going to be working with those two together. And I work with something called multisensory learning, which means that a lot of the things that I would be sharing with you will include like practical activities, the experiments, things that they can do, artwork, and lots of interactive materials so that you can work with your child or students and help them understand and develop their creative writing and comprehension through lots of fun. Because, of course, we know when we learn with fun, we tend to remember things, especially if we have a strategy and a structure behind it. And that's where I come in with that strategy and structure to help you with development of SEA toward 2025. So a little quick background about me. So when I say for this program in relation to the creative writing focus that I have, it's because I do creative writing in other avenues as well. I am a developmental editor and copy editor, which means that I work with people who are publishing. I help them refine their manuscripts for publishing. I work with academic writing, dealing with university students and secondary school students preparing for their exams. University students, I work with master's students. So I deal with writing on a variety of levels and not just from the primary school perspective. So many of the things that I'm sharing with you have to do with me looking at writing from that university level and recognizing that some foundation is needed. So I'm back at the primary school level to create structures and strategies for students to get that effective foundation. So a lot of what I'll be sharing with you is not just a one-time thing where you do it for SEA and that's it. These are skills and strategies that students can repeat, continue, maintain, keep practicing so that when they get to secondary school, their writing will be at a very high level and they would be able to receive the instruction at secondary school effectively. And then as they go through secondary school, they also will have that information moving forward and all the way up to university. Because one of the things that I'll tell you what happened, why I came down. There were three things that happened. When I say came down, I mean came down to the lower levels in terms of the primary school when I taught university for a long time. If you want a little bit more about my background information, I did a post in SEA, the Peace Filled Approach, and you can find that. It's in the pinned posts. And I gave a little bit more background on my history with writing and teaching writing if you want to know more about that. But just quickly, before we get into what I want to share today. Um, when I taught university level, I taught academic writing, communication skills, and a couple other subjects. And I always encountered students who would give me an experience that they had at primary school that shaped the way they viewed writing. And in my interactions with many primary school students, what I found is that they learn to hate writing through the rigors that we often put them through while they are going through that learning process. And when a student hates writing, it affects them tremendously throughout their academic career and even when they get to work and they have to do reports and other documents. it is a problem. Even at that level, you would hear managers and so on. Even managers have the experiences, but with their employees, who can't write well and they hate writing, and there's a lot of negativity where that's concerned. And in going through the SAA process twice with my first daughter and my second daughter, those two times, one each, I realized that we teach writing in a very um, dogmatic kind of standoffish way, as if writing is a subject that is just on the out there and we could learn by rote. Like, we learn the times tables, so we learn writing. But writing doesn't quite work like that. We do need to integrate writing in life and through experiences. Because when you look at it, writing is a form of communication, and it means that students really, what they're learning is how to communicate with words on paper. And so, if they don't know how to communicate in general, it's going to be extremely difficult for them to communicate in writing on paper. So, the perspective that I take in trying to make things a little more interactive and manageable for students is multisensory learning, as I said. And what that does is that it makes writing practical and tangible. And so, for students who are struggling with writing and struggling with clarifying their ideas and making their ideas clear on paper, they get tangible hands on things that they could remember and they could, work with. And we do this through a very systematic way that includes journaling, it includes observations, it includes writing, analysis, conversation, and all of those things that work together to enhance writing skills. So I've been doing this journey to SCA for about 2 years now. This would be year three. I did it in 2022, so 22 to 23, and then we did 23 to 24, and now we're into 24 to 25. And I have learned quite a lot along the way in terms of what really works with students. And that doing the program, in addition to these lives, I have classes as well where I do comprehension classes, creative writing classes, and I work with mainly standards 3, 4, and 5. But I'm also looking at what is going to be done at the standards 1 and 2 levels, because Journey to SEA does not begin in standard 3 or standard 4. It begins before that. And I know many of you, you are where you are. Most of you who are paying attention to this program would either be teachers or parents of standard 3 or standard 4 students. But a lot of what I'm going to be sharing can also apply to the lower levels. It's just a matter of how it is presented and how it is engaged, because we really do need to see that journey to SEA from the beginning. So, what I'm going to be doing primarily for those who are tuned in, it will be extremely helpful if you can check in from time to time, whether you send me a message on Messenger or WhatsApp. I can share my phone number. I'll do that in a bit, but let me know what level you are, and if you have any challenges, what are teachers saying, what is the feedback you're getting, so that as we go through these presentations, I am going to tailor the presentations and the discussions to answer your specific questions. So today was a kind of, upside down complicated day. We began late and I'm going to be ending early. I'm just going to be giving you the basics of it and how to get started. Next week, we will do the full thing where I go through from the beginning the requirements for the reports and the narratives and comprehension. So, today's session, I really want to give you what you need to actually get started. And the number one thing that you need to get started is a schedule, study schedule, practice schedule, and you need to know what you're going to do ahead of time and not just, okay, this week, what are we doing? We really do need some planning. And so, in the practice and the experiences that I've had this term, I am actually revising things a little bit, and I guess that's why I started a bit late with the revision. And so I'm kind of playing catch up right now, even though the term has already started. But I'm revising everything so that it would be more integrated, and so that when the schedules are up, which I'm going to be putting them up today in SEA, the Peacefield Approach, or you can just message me and I'll send you an email with the schedules. I'm doing schedules for reports where you'd have a schedule for studying and topics to study every week. There's going to be one for narratives where you, again, same thing, studying every week, and one for comprehension. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today, just the schedules and what you need to start putting into place so that you would have that systematic, consistent approach rather than trying to, um, do a lot at the same time. So, all right. Let's see. Is there anything else I want to tell you before I go into that? So, you know a little bit about me, you know about my writing. I taught English as a second language for a long time, and that is where I really got my foundation for teaching language and the English language in particular. And so, while I'm not necessarily going to be touching on grammar and punctuation in these sessions, feel free to ask your questions and I'd be able to send me a WhatsApp and I can send you links and um, different information that you can access to cover the grammar and punctuation. So, whatever we do with grammar and punctuation, it will be in direct relationship with what we're doing with the narratives and the reports as well, because there are certain concepts, like, for example, with reports, passive voice and reported speech. Those are considered part of the grammatical constructs. Those are important for writing an effective report. So we will touch on those. And for the narratives, we're looking at the certain punctuation that you would need to use, commas in particular when we're doing introductory phrases and so on. So we will cover those things, but not grammar and punctuation in general. So that's what I wanted just to give you a heads up. So these sessions will be focused primarily on the comprehension and the reports and narratives. I treat them separately when studying, even though at the end everything is integrated, we are going to be touching on specific topics. And so for each topic, we're going to look at every session. So today's session, because it's general, I'm kind of giving you some background and so on. But for sessions going forward, what I normally do is to tackle reports first, then we do narratives, and then we do the comprehension. We will be spending roughly about 15 to 20 minutes on each one, focused on a particular topic. So I'll give you an example. Like, for example, next week, when we do the full introduction, I'm going to be reviewing the requirements for reports first. Then I will review the requirements for the narratives, and then we will discuss requirements for comprehension. Now, comprehension is something that has been a little bit misunderstood, the way students will approach the comprehension. And that's something that I want to clear up very early. So, in terms of preparation, what I would like you to do, I'm going to give you an idea of the study schedule, and you can look out this evening. So when I'm finished with this live, I'll probably close at 12, because, like I said, this is just the heads up. Let's get to know each other a little bit. Of course, if you have any questions, you can ask them now. I will respond to them. You can type in the chat, or you can send me on Messenger, on Facebook, or WhatsApp. Let me put my number up. Let's do that right now. And this is WhatsApp only. I would not be able to answer any calls until probably May. Um, and I'll give you a little background on that in a little bit. Let me just put the number first, 4993. So my number is 7174993. And You can send me a WhatsApp number. Let me put that on screen so you can see exactly. Yeah, 7174993. WhatsApp me, and if I don't answer the questions immediately in that presentation, I'm going to send you a message afterward when I go through the messages if I missed any, and I will also deal with it in the next session so that you could, stay tuned and you'd be able to get the information. So, and I'm thinking even though I said 11, I'm wondering if 11 o'clock works for you. Of course, the recordings are going to be there. If 11 o'clock works, then let me know. If an earlier time or a slightly later time might function better, let me know as well. I'm willing to make, minor adjustments so that you can get the information. But of course, the recordings will be there. Once the live is finished, you would get recordings on YouTube. You will get a recording in SEA Peacefield Approach and a recording on my Facebook page, Word Coach Youth. I'm also working on putting the recording on LinkedIn. So if those of you, anybody you know is more frequenting LinkedIn, I do have a page there that I have not been using. I'm going to actively be doing that from this time around, starting next week. So there'd be multiple places where you'd be able to find the information. And of course, once you have my number, you have direct contact with me, send me a message. If I don't answer immediately, I will eventually get to it. So, all right, so back to the schedules, and let's start with the report writing and the narrative writing because the schedule is going to be fairly the same for both. Of course, with the reports, you're working on reports, narratives, you're working on narratives, but you're looking at a similar schedule for both of them. And what I recommend, I know writing every day is it's important, but we don't want to just do random writing. Or, at this point, students might already be writing full narratives and full reports at school, but that's not what you would want to do with them at home. What you want to do with them at home is to work out the gaps and fill in the foundation and give them that um, solid reinforcement that would allow them to perform effectively at school. So we're not going to be asking students to write full reports or full narratives at at home right now. What we're working on is just the consistent approach to it and consistent studying of it, but not writing full reports or full narratives at home just yet. I know at school they're doing things and it might be kind of distressing when you see what the marks are looking like. You're not sure how to deal with it, but there are many skills that are required for students to complete a report or complete a narrative. Aside from the grammar, spelling, and punctuation, we're also looking at organizing ideas in terms of chronological order. We're looking at selecting relevant information. We're looking at responding effectively to prompts. We're looking at vocabulary being used effectively. And those are just four very broad categories. When we go into the details, we're looking at transition words and how, we have the conjunctions that we might need to use to extend sentences. So there's a long list of things that students are required to do. And so it is absolutely important to be able to isolate one skill at a time while you're doing that foundation and not try to put all together. So the idea is that at home, you're working on specific things and you are filling in that foundation so that at school, students would be able to perform effectively. And so what you want to do is to carve out roughly 2 hours for each type of writing. So we want 2 hours for narratives, 2 hours for reports. and 2 hours for comprehension, but we would get to that. And this is how you're breaking it down. So we want two 30-minute sessions and one, um, let's say 45 to an hour. At this point, it's really just to practice certain things because remember, we're not getting into to full stuff yet. You want to use that time where you could do maybe the experiments and have, activities done and so on. And then we want one 60-minute session, let's say, right? So average, because we're looking at 20 to 30 minutes and then 45 minutes to 60 minutes. So I'm going to put that up in a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about, right? And you want that spread throughout the week. And you want this for each. So for reports, we want to get this. For narratives, we want to get the same thing. And then for comprehension, you want the same thing as well. So let's say on Monday afternoons, you do a 30-minute session, then that would either be narratives or reports. And you want to do that, let's say maybe Wednesday. So Mondays and Wednesdays, focus on reports, and then you have a 60-minute session, let's say maybe Friday or Saturday or Sunday, whichever day is most convenient for you to get that length of time. And of course, 60 minutes is maximum, right? So you can 45, even if you want to stick with another half an hour because that's what you have time available, then do that. But we want to have 3 touch points for each one every week. So same thing for reports, same thing for narratives. So let's say Monday, Wednesday, Sunday would be reports, then Tuesday, Thursday, Friday would be narratives. Whichever way it works out for you. Comprehension can come at any time. So you don't have to alternate it with the comprehension like that. Comprehension can run concurrently, but that's you want to alternate it with the reports and the narratives. So when you sit down to do creative writing, you're not just sitting down to do creative writing and then you pull to see, okay, what's happening and what you want to focus on. The schedules are going to go up and you would have like a week by week what to focus on. And when I do the lives, what I'm going to do is to give you sort of a guide of, okay, for the first 30 minutes, you can work on this. For the second 30 minutes, work on that. And then for the longer period, this is what you're working on. And so you'd have that step by step guide to follow with the reports and the narratives and the comprehension with that kind of guidance each week. So, of course, because this is a Tuesday, we will be cycling every Tuesday. But with the schedules, you will have a guide on what we're going to be covering each week. And when you get the schedule, you would notice that we're going to go through certain concepts up until the end of July, because I'm going to close off for the August break. So we're going to have May, June, July. So 3 months we're going to go through. Then we will close off for August. When we resume in September, you will see some of the same topics coming again, and then in January coming again. Because the way the schedule is designed is that we start with the foundation, give students fill in some gaps, and then we move on to other things, and then we come back working with the foundation that we already have so that we can add to it, and then we move on, and then in January we're going to come back again and work again. And that way you get the repetition, you get the practice, and students would be leveling up as they continue. So that's how it's going to work with the reports and the narratives. And like I said, so check, let's say, maybe this evening by about 5 o'clock because my class is at 4:30. So I'm going to post it up before then. So you can check by 5 or definitely check in the morning. Because right now I had to make some changes. So I'm adjusting the dates. And with the comprehension, what we are going to be doing actually is studying each type of text separately. Now, when most people look at comprehension, what they do is to look at the types of questions and how to respond to specific types of questions. And if you haven't heard it yet, you're going to hear it over and over from your child, from teachers. You'll hear about inferential and literal questions, and we have different types of questions. You might hear things about context clues and so on. But here's the thing. Inferential and literal questions are two very broad categories. And if we work with those two categories alone, students are still going to be lost because the kinds of inferential questions you get for one type of comprehension, let's say a poem, is not the same kind of inferential question you will get for a graphic. And many people look at the passage, that's the first part of the comprehension. Um, when they look at the passage, they just see, okay, this is a passage. But for SEA, you can get one of two types. You can get a fiction piece, in which case students have to respond to a story, or you can get a non-fiction piece, which means students are responding to an article on a particular topic, very factual type article. And approaching those two the same way can get a student into trouble. We really want them to separate that and say, okay, this is fiction, therefore I can expect these ideas and these approaches. Or this is nonfiction, and therefore I can expect certain things. So we are going to go through that as much as I could share with you in 20 minutes. I'm going to do that. But of course, send me messages, ask me questions, and so that I can give you the kind of information that you need. I do this with my classes as well. The difference is, of course, my classes run for an hour and a half so that we get into details. I get students practicing, they get to respond, I get to give them immediate feedback and give them that direct one on one kind of interaction because I keep my classes very small. My largest class is going to be 10 students. I usually average between 6 to 8 students in a program because I want to be able to give each child that one on one and be able to understand their challenges and direct them effectively. And so, even with the comprehension, we do that. I keep my classes very small, maximum 10 students. So, if by chance you are still looking for a creative writing class, I'm only running narratives this term because that's the one most students struggle with. If your child is having challenges with reports because of the structure of reports and how organized and detailed they are, and we're working with factual information, you can actually do like a self study and practice reports pretty much on your own until you get to writing full reports where you would need somebody marking it and that kind of thing. If you're interested in reports and you think that your child isn't doing enough with reports, then send me a message. I have a package that you can probably access that would help you. I don't remember the cost of the top of my head now. I can check it and put it in the chat in a bit, and certainly after the live. I believe it's 395. What you're getting is the textbook, which would give you the content and the practice and the descriptions and explanations of the different topics. Then you would get a workbook with practice activities following up on what's in the text. And you get a journal that is an attempt at taking the student from the classroom into seeing the relevance of report writing in the real world. And I say real world because yes, classrooms are real, but because we're creating scenarios, it doesn't feel as real. Um, so we it's a complete program that you can have textbook, journal, and workbook. And if you're following along with the live, then that should be sufficient for you to handle the reports. Narratives, on the other hand, because of the figurative language, sensory language, and so on, I don't have my textbook combination for that just yet. So that's why I'm running narrative classes. So I have one class, I think, on Sunday evening, one class on Tuesday evening. So I'm actually starting a class this evening, and they're scheduled pretty late. The group classes are from 6:30 to 8 p.m. so that, after whatever else is happening at school, then we have our classes. We meet once a week online. All the classes are online, and so students can have that time to do their practice. So my class would be considered like the hour session in the schedule, and then you add at least two separate 30-minute sessions. If you can add the two 30-minute plus another hour outside of my class or outside of our discussions, then that is going to be even better. But of course, I know students at this level, tons of assignments and things are heating up because they're in exam mode from now at standard 4 at this point, because we have roughly a year to go. Things are getting, really intense. So, following along with the lives, and if you get a copy of the textbook and the workbooks and so on, you can have that systematic practice, and then that's going to work out that way. For the narratives, I have some materials, but not a whole lot. And so I'm still working on them, but it's taking a lot longer than I anticipated because I think at some point I'm just going to have to stop tweaking it and put the workbook out there because every time I have interaction with my classes, I observe what students learn and how they learn and what they struggle with. And when I observe what they struggle with, I go back and I revise. And so it's a constant learning process and always improving because not all students learn the same way. And I design my programs primarily for students who are having challenges because many students who have challenges, it's simply because they learn a little bit differently. And that's why I use the multisensory learning, because students who learn differently don't need another class the same way their class teacher does it. They don't need another class like that. They need something a little bit more interaction, a little bit more interactive, sorry, a little bit out of the box so that they can learn in different ways and therefore enhance their skills. So that's the way we'll be doing it for these sessions. And I will be putting up little notes, different things. And from the text, I'll be guiding you. Okay, look at this chapter this week. Look at that chapter. Do this part of the workbook, and that's for the reports. So you can have that support and interaction. And of course, you'd have my contact number. I just put it back on the screen that you can contact me if you need any specific question answered. Of course, there is also SEA Peaceful Approach, where I'm not the only instructor in there, lots of feedback and responses in that group. And certainly with the math, you can ask lots of questions there. I don't cover the math, although either in maybe November, December, or early January, I am going to take a specific look at the worded problems because that's a lot about comprehension and systematic approach more so than it is the math because students know how to add and multiply, etc. What they struggle with those questions is how to interpret what the question is asking them and how to systematically get the answers by following a process. And so I will look at that a little bit later because I know it's an issue and it's a comprehension thing. So I do focus on comprehension as well. So I'm going to add that in to support there. So, all right, it is 10 minutes past 12. Listen, my timing has been so off this week. I'm still settling in, but once I get the schedules up, then we're going to be good to go. And we have already turned on the ignition, rev the engine. So we're going to put it in drive and, leave some tire marks next week when we really get going into it. Because we are officially on our journey to SEA 2025. And I am really excited looking forward to the program. What I've done as well is to create I've opened a separate YouTube channel that would be dedicated to this alone because, like I said, remember I do editing and other things. And the channel it's on right now has other programs on it too, and I'm going to be getting more into those things separately. So I want to keep it separate. So when you go to it would be um, SEA Creative Writing and Comprehension. If you search that up, there's nothing on the channel right now. I'm going to start putting things on it, and then the lives will be going there, and then you'd be able to also get little clips and notes and different things, because in these lives I do creative writing, comprehension, and the reports and narratives. So what we'll be doing on the YouTube channel as well and on my website is after the live we will cut the clips so that you can get a playlist of only reports, or a playlist of only narratives, playlist of only comprehension, if that's what you want to focus on, so you can individually focus on different things. So we're trying to make the information as accessible as possible. And of course, with your questions and your comments, I'm going to make sure that you get everything you need to support your child effectively with reports, with narratives, and with comprehension. So feel free to ask me questions about myself, what I do, and how I could individually support you, or whether you want to join classes. Feel free to reach out. So you can find me on Facebook. My name is Shelly Ann Edwards Barron on Facebook. Um, I have Miss Shelly Ann here, but let me give you my full name just in case you are not aware. You can find me with this name on Facebook and send me a message by Messenger. You can send me a message on WhatsApp as well, and keep in contact, because the more you tell me what your challenges are and the more questions I get, is the better and more useful this program is going to be for everyone. So don't feel that there's a question that, I wouldn't answer. The only time I would not answer a question is if you didn't ask one. If I have to say the same thing 25 times to make sure you get it, I will say it 25 times. Repetition is key. So if somebody asks me a question today and I answer it and I get the very same question tomorrow, I'm going to answer it and also refer you to my previous answer, because we always learn. And so if I answer a question today, I answer with the knowledge I have today. If you ask me the same question next week, I may have gotten some insight and I may have learned something new that I could answer the question in a slightly different way that would be maybe more thorough. And so I don't have a problem answering questions. So feel free. Don't even think, okay, somebody probably asked that already. So what? Ask your question again. I'm here to answer, and I'm here to help you as much as I can. All right. So thank you so much for those of you who were able to still join. I know I promised 11. So my new thing is to say 11-ish, right? Yeah, that's what I say, 11-ish, but I do try to keep it maximum within an hour. Sometimes I go over maybe 1 or 2 minutes, but I don't want to make it so extensive to take up that much of your time. So I want to be as strategic as possible with the information that I share. And so it is now, I want to check the time. So it is now 12:15. So I'm going to close off today's session, but letting you know next week we're going to go through the starting point would be what are the requirements. And so we're going to look at requirements for each. And by then you should have had the study schedules. And if you have any questions about the study schedules, you can let me know and I'll be able to answer those as well. All right. So thank you so much for working with me and for joining me with the Journey to SEA 2025. And I'm thinking of changing the intro music, but I like it so much, so I'll probably keep it. I'll just adjust the intro a little bit. But I'm really excited going forward. Lots to do, lots to learn, and lots of interaction to have, because um it's always a cliche to say this, the children are our future, but that's a fact. And we need to do what we can to make them happy, healthy, and effective human beings where they enjoy their life as well. So that's what we're here to do, to make writing fun and to ease the distress of creative writing for SEA. All right, thank you so much, and I'll see you next week. Bye, guys.